We've been talking for a little over a year now about being the Episcopal branch of the Jesus movement. And somebody recently said to me, I said, Bishop, why don't you paint us a picture? Give us a picture of the Jesus movement so that we can see it. When the gospel is about to be read, the congregation stands up. Something is going on. And then more than that, as the gospel moment is approaching, a deacon, if there is a deacon in the particular church, a person who has been ordained to be at the intersection of the church and the world, is asked to read or chant the gospel. And they come down sometimes with a gospel book held high. And there's music and the congregation is singing as the gospel of Jesus, the teachings, the life and the spirit of Jesus enter, in a sense, the room through the reading of the gospel. And then on top of that, everyone in the room turns and reorients from wherever they are. They turn and reorient themselves facing the place of the gospel and stand for the reading of the gospel, for hearing the teachings of Jesus. That gospel moment, the church has become the Jesus movement, with life reoriented around the teachings of Jesus and around his very spirit. Teachings and a spirit that embody the love of God in our lives and in this world. A way of love that seeks the good and the well-being of the other before the self's own unenlightened interest. A way of love that is not self-centered, but other-directed. A way of love grounded in compassion and goodness and justice and forgiveness. It is that way of love that is the way of Jesus, and that way of love that can set us all free. Someone once said, when you look at Jesus, you see one who is loving, one who is liberating, and one who is life-giving. And that is what the way of Jesus is about. And that is the movement of Jesus. A community of people committed to living the way of Jesus, loving, liberating, and life-giving, and committed to going into the world to help this world become one that is loving, liberating, and life-giving. Jesus once said, you will receive power when the Holy Spirit has come upon you, and you will be my witnesses in Jerusalem, in Judea, in Samaria, 42nd Street and 3rd Avenue. You will be my witnesses, witnesses to a way that is loving, liberating, and life-giving. And that, my friends, can change this world.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good to see you all. And some of you just came from the 8 o'clock, and so you heard our readings for today, and you heard a homily that tried to draw that into context to what Bishop Curry just reminded us of. That role of the gospel, that role of us, essentially through our baptisms, to be deacons into this world. This line drawing this universe of the way we worship and the way we gather in fellowship, and then how we turn, reorient ourselves because of the gospel into the world. Don't you love that language? Love, liberating. What was the third one?
Life-giving.
Life-giving. Oh, life-giving. So how have you experienced those three words as you've come to understand your baptism? You've all done it in many ways. I know some of your stories, but not all of yours. How have you experienced that? How have you exercised? How have you practiced? How have you been challenged in your attempts to be loving, liberating, and life-giving? Now, the women in the room, you all cheated, okay? For those who've birthed children, you've already kind of went to the ultimate life-giving experience, I would suggest. But what are some of the things that has come to your hearts and minds, either as you heard that video or as I'm reaffirming that in your hearts and minds? Don't everyone jump up and down at once now.
But we're so rich in our blessings in this country, in this city, in this town, in this church. And you're thankful, and that brings you to want to, you see the rest of the world, a lot of the world, and
Yeah.
you want to try to help financially, spiritually, physically, emotionally.
Yeah.
I hate the word giving back because it's such a cliche, but it is.
So if I follow Bishop Curry's line there, Marina, when we collect the offering and we present the offering to God, we bring it to the altar, the Lord's table, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we have bread and wine, and we bring some money if it's in the plate. Last night at baptism, some kid wrote his hope for someone to win some WWF contest later on this week. Whatever it is, it gets offered to God. I think that's giving thanks. Just to where you ended there, like giving thanks. And then this other thing, thank you for testifying to this. What I heard you say was giving thanks for what is good. And that's the whole good, not all the particular details where we could nip apart, but country and liberty and this city of San Diego and the city of Poway and this congregation, and you've been in education for a long time and serving others. And sounds like you've had a chance to see the world a little bit, and you've seen it's not all roses. It's not all like this. Yeah. Thank you. Other voices in our hearts and mind as you think about loving and liberating and being life-giving. Have you thought of yourself as a person as being someone who's called to be liberating and life-giving? You have. Tell us about that. Just give us a snippet.
Well, I've often asked myself, what would Jesus have me do in a certain situation?
What would Jesus have me do?
And years ago, I had a neighbor, teenage son, stole some things from my house.
Yep.
I could have pressed charges. The parents begged me
Yep.
not to, and because of a drug situation. And it was very, very taxing for me to decide what to do. I talked to Judith Allison about it, and I finally decided I'm not going to press charges.
Yeah.
And the guy has turned his life around, and I prayed a lot about it. And Judith didn't give me a yes or no answer, but she made me think a little deeper.
So that you can go back to a very particular moment when you had to make a choice. A choice where your choice not only impacted your sense of justice and what's right and teaching and holding someone accountable and balancing that out with mercy and grace and possibility for this person. And then you heard the voices of the parents in ways that touched your heart. And then if you talked to Reverend Judith, that means you prayed about it.
Oh, yeah.
You prayed about it. You got on your knees and said, Christ, what should I do? And you have the benefit, which not all teachers or people get after they made a choice like that, to actually know the other side of that story, which is the person lived a full life, or continues to be life-giving.
Yeah, he's a member of the military and in the Navy, and
Yeah.
he turned his life around.
Yeah. Wow. That's a wonderful testimony to grace. And that moment of giving someone that opportunity. Because it's a gamble, right? You might as well roll the dice every time we do that, right? Just roll that dice. Amen. Yes?
Okay, I'm gonna get a little real here. When I see Haiti, first thing is anger.
Yeah.
With all the billions squandered, what happened to all the money
Yeah.
Bill Clinton raised?
Yeah.
The money that we gave.
Yeah.
And then I see those faces, and it's overwhelming
Yep.
and numbing,
Yeah.
for decades now, it's,
Great.
you see the same faces, Ethiopia and,
Yep.
Kenya and, World Vision and all
Yeah.
that, we do all that, but I'm here because I know faith without deed is dead.
So faith
So-
without deed is dead. But it sounds like you're challenged. You're struggling with.
No, I mean, it's overwhelming, but
Yeah.
I gotta, how do I, with that one child.
Yeah. It's okay. Thank you for showing us your heart.
I don't wanna turn on the news anymore.
Yeah.
I don't want that bad story.
Yeah. Thank you.
Oh,
I think your tears are the tears of so many. You're giving permission to others to have their hearts be transformed by the actual suffering of humanity that you've come to witness on TV. But you started with, what the heck? Right? Our governments around the world have poured money into many countries, into many catastrophes, into many societies to try to fix them, and we're well aware. U.S. companies, U.S. citizens, let alone companies and people from around the world who squander that money or literally go get rich off it, right? And we're talking, the number billion comes to mind, if anyone can comprehend that number, disappearing.
And how much progress has there been?
Right.
Is there any
They
progress?
don't have
Right.
decent homes, they're still wiped out.
Gosh, every time they start to rebuild, it gets
Yeah,
washed
yeah.
away or it comes crumbling down. Yeah.
But there's also documentaries about, our good intentions, from the West
Yep.
is actually hurting the very, the entrepreneurs who are trying to
Right.
build their economies, but it's hard to.
So when someone's on the margins, they how do they break that cycle? And here in the United States, we talk about how do you break the cycle of poverty for all the countless numbers of people who live within 10 miles of here who live below the poverty line, who are if they have a paycheck to paycheck, or literally the mercy of someone else every day or every week, so they can maintain some sense of stability. And the minute they get in a car accident, the minute they get hit by a bus, the minute they lose their part-time job, the minute the landlord doesn't want to give them another week without rent, everything falls apart. And how does that person break out of that cycle?
I think when I heard you speak, the thing that came to mind was actually what Father Noe says is don't send pencils from the U.S.
Right.
Don't send shoes from the U.S. Help us buy them from people who make them in the country.
So one of the beautiful things that Father Noe has taught me over the last 7 years, and actually it was Bishop Bajarona before that in Belize, and another bishop in El Salvador taught me, is we want relationships as opposed to standoff aid. And the other thing we want is we want to rebuild our country and enable our people to build their own sustainability. But on the other hand, when we talk about reconciliation, we talk about reconciliation between countries and people and generations. Part of the reality in Haiti and many other countries is those countries were really raped and pillaged by multiple governments over multiple centuries. We're not talking about like 1 year or 5 years. We're talking like constant, for well over 200 years. And so that history, we have an opportunity to reconcile the history by seeking forgiveness and by saying, well, we'll do the best we can. And then we have these brains of ours that say, well, if I write a check and 90 cents of every dollar goes to some bank for somebody in some island and they're getting rich off it, I'm not excited about that. So the first time I went to Haiti was a year after the earthquake. I got down there, and it was the northern part of Haiti, which was not highly impacted by the earthquake, but a lot of people went there as refugees. And the Episcopal Church was working hard on finding housing and whatnot for them. But I was torn because I saw a lot of the NGO and other government people from foreign countries coming in, and the area that they were settled in was up the hill outside the city, so away from the slums, and these beautiful Victorian-looking homes that were rented. They're driving brand new, not used, not borrowed, brand new Land Rovers and the Toyota, all the 4Runners and all those things. Because they took all the aid money, bought all those resources. And then there's this tension, because the doctors are coming in from all the hospitals around the world to help. They need some sense of place to be and stable, and they need to attract them to come in and help. And yet all the money that goes into that support system seems to be forgotten on the street. Yeah, there's a parable out there. When someone's hungry, do you buy them some fish or do you teach them how to fish?
Teach them how to fish.
Right? What did I get it right, Amy?
Teach them how to fish.
Teach them how to fish, right? And I think it's a both and. I don't think it's one or the other. I think it's a both and. Yes.
I think taking that one step further too, in places like Haiti and even here, we sometimes have to ask the question: is it enough just to teach people how to fish?
Right.
Do they even have access to the pond to begin with? What are the barriers that keep them locked out?
Yeah.
And that's a justice issue.
Yep. So in a moment, I'm about to show you our video if you haven't seen already, and then we'll go into really depth about what we think God's calling us to do in Haiti. But any other comments? What's stirring your heart? Thoughts, Jim?
For me, on a parallel path, it's a way to get more personally involved, and when we're more personally involved in effort, I can use my own, job as an example. I've earned a paycheck and been supported because I've been at the service of the country, either through the military or making products for the government, and that's all great when we trust in what the government's going to do, whether that's a naive trust or not.
Yeah.
But I got involved in a volunteer organization to teach yoga to vets a few years ago, and that's become a lot more personal.
Yep.
And I can see the immediate benefit.
Yep.
And maybe through this effort, we in this room are obviously interested, can see the immediate benefit of providing that structure.
Yeah. So Jim, thank you for bringing up that reality of your own truth of serving our country and getting through the academy and then serving and then going into the secular world, but also in an industry that serves our military and others. And then you got into yoga, you're a yoga instructor, and then you got into serving veterans. And that brought a new, opened a new part of your heart and to new possibilities of joy and love. That would be the gospel. I think you just gave a wonderful little example of what it means to be in the system around the gospel and then turn our lives, literally as Bishop Curry said, turn ourselves to a new direction and be open to the possibility of the intimacy of knowing Christ. Because when we turn, that's when we move from a system that's doing something to our transformation of our hearts and transforming of the lives.
It's a reality. But I think as priests, as men of God, we're trying to change the situation. It's like the situation of darkness into joy. But right now, it's darkness for them. But they see the light very far, and they will get there. But if we have one priority right now, is to build the school. And in that school, we have a place for people to worship decently. Because as you can see right now, if there's rain, we can't stay there on the shade, so we have to go somewhere else. Lower Net is a place, as you can see, that needs help. And looking at the people, no matter the little they have, and they're so happy, they are very excited. There are some existing schools belonging to the government, but most parents, they don't really send their kids in those schools. The reason is that the teachers don't get paid. If they don't get paid, they don't come to teach. So you can send your kid to school and they spend 3-4 hours not having a teacher to teach them. So this is why the Episcopal Church is everywhere we have a church, there's a school. We do believe in education. It's about roughly 200 kids, but it's a tiny building. We fit all the kids all together, but we just separate them like with a board. They say this is first grade, second grade, third grade, and fifth grade, and we don't have enough benches really for the kids to sit in. And some kids, they walk very far to come to learn it. Some walk 1 hour, some walk 1.5 to get there. I think the school plays a great role in this community. That's why the kids are so happy to come in the school. The education is like a package, not only we teach like mathematics, English, Creole and everything, but we teach other subjects as well. We also teach them how to behave in society. We invite them to come to church at least once Sunday every month. By hearing the goodness of Jesus, some will change, because we do believe that there are some special virtues that will still need to take place in the school to teach people. Because the model we set in the Episcopal Church, so the lay reader have some knowledge on healthcare, education, and the gospel. You know what I'm saying? So he's everything. It's something in Haiti. A priest is not only a pastor. You're a social worker. You're an engineer. You're everything. Because people just rely on you to survive. So you have to be there for them. Those kids, they are the future of Haiti. I mean, I remember when I was a kid, I was in that same way, but look at where I'm right now because of the church. The way it is now, it costs us about 50,000, and when we need another 10,000 to finish it. But I would say like roughly 65,000. The reason I add the other 5,000 is because the distance for the material. So, but 65,000, we'll have a brand new school there. We didn't have any. I mean, so thanks to St. Bartholomew that sent money to pay the teachers. So we have 5 teachers, and we pay them $60 every month, and we use the rest to buy food for the kids.
You could get jobs that pay more good money somewhere else. Why teach here?
For example, so we want to help people from the community. We want to give back what they did, and also the reason we want to teach is we don't want the kids go miles away to go to school. He likes to teach and he likes to see kids go to school. Partnership is not, to me, is not only one-way thing. It's 2 ways. And I mean, we can start by praying for each other, pray about our partnership. We need more people like you to help us to spread out the words on Haiti, because things are really difficult in Haiti. So if we can have more people that come and witness what I've been experiencing here in Haiti, that would be helpful, and you spread out the words, be our ambassadors to the world. Thank you. I think one of this day, Loanet will have this beautiful school, and they hope for that. And we will work very hard to make that happen. It's a dream that will come to reality, and I'm sure. And that's why I invite the people of St. Bartholomew to really, not only be partner with us, but friends, help us to build the school. As you can see, we need a school very, very badly. So, and I know God is good. We will make it happen.
In the schools that the Episcopal Church runs in Haiti, and almost all faith communities run schools, and they're for anyone to come to. So they don't discriminate. They don't ask you, hey, are you baptized? Are you Episcopalian? Are you Catholic? Are you Jewish? They just educate you. And the schools provide food, for starters. So in Liberating, these kids maybe have 1 or 2 meals a week. Meal being rice, beans, and maybe something else. And so we are now currently providing, we have this spring and we're doing it again this fall, the children receive about 4 meals to 5 meals a week now when they come to school. Because we also know in education you can't learn unless your stomach's got something in it. So we provide some meals. And then what do they teach? So in the current situation, it's a little rough. That structure we saw is not even as big as this room here. And they've got about 200 kids now showing up. 200 plus, because we're providing food, and there's a hope, there's a possibility. And so once we build the structure that you saw that St. Dunstan's Mass, my last parish, built, the photo's incomplete, but you get the idea. There'll be 50 kids in each of those rooms having dedicated learning for the day. And so what do they teach? In the elementary school, most kids know either local dialect or Haitian Creole. They'll learn French on top of that, and then they'll start learning English right away. So by the time they get through 5th grade, they're fluent in 3 languages, fluent. And then when they start 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, that's when they go into fully into Spanish. And then they'll learn, when they get to high school, they'll learn Latin. Okay? So if you get through the system, you'll end up with 5 languages. And then as they move up through the grades, they bring in, like we do here in the States, you have a general teacher for elementary school probably, and then as they move up, then you bring specialized mathematicians, scientists, social studies teachers, whatnot, to teach them the broader subjects. They have to do well in school to keep going. That's a fact, and it's which follows the English model for education, where you have to pass exams to move forward. School, so if you're in the city of Haiti, Port-au-Prince, which is the hub, and you go to one of the top schools in the country, which is an Episcopal school, St. Peter's, it'll cost somewhere between $1,500 to $2,000 a year, U.S. to go. Now, every time I throw out tuition, you have to understand 50% of the students don't pay tuition because they don't have any money. And the other half, half of that remaining amount, pay full tuition. The rest are on scholarships. When you get out to that bigger school where Noe is based right now in Esch, St. Andres, that was started 32 years ago through St. Dunstan's up in Northern California. And that school started the same way we are starting Lorette. That tuition is about $250 to $300 a year. Again, 50% of the families don't have any of that money, and the vast majority of them are on scholarship. And then in Lorette, where St. Dunstan's just built the church, Massachusetts built, when we went there to Lebec, Noé said, well, we'll charge $10 US a year to go to school. And he said, but none of them will be able to pay it. Because they have no money, they have no cash, it's subsistence living, they have nothing. And we don't want to fall into the trap where they have to sell their dignity in order to send their kids to school. And the most obvious that is for the women to sell their bodies into prostitution or to sell their kids off. And so we want to avoid that pressure. So tuition's tuition, but Noe insists on tuition, so there's ownership, there's an understanding that we're in this together. And then the teachers that you saw in the video for Lorette, those are 5 children who grew up in that community, who walked 2 hours to the local city to get educated. They got through high school by going to one further way and spending the night 4 nights a week in someone's house, going to school and then coming home on the weekends. Did that for all those years, and they got their high school diplomas, and they came back to their village, which is rare, to teach. And when the school is built, then Noe will hire more skilled teachers. And then you can see how the employment and the incentives to gain more education and to use that education will increase. The parents cook. So that's how they cooperate in the school. They do all the cooking. They do the aids for the really small kindergarten type kids. They do all the aids in the classrooms for those kids. That's how they participate. The building of the school, there's some local contractors hired, so it's built strong and firm. But every time I've been down there to build schools, we're down there sweating, and then the whole community comes out. Now remember, when you first arrive, very rarely does the whole community come out, because they're so used to false promises from governments and from people. And so when they do come out, it's a joyful celebration of life. Why do we partner through the Episcopal Church versus through any other option? Well, part back to the earlier comment about where's the money really go. So we wired down $6,000 6 weeks ago down to Haiti. And the email went down there, went to Ajax, who's the administrator of finances for the diocese. I got an email confirmation from him that he received it. Father Noé had an email as well. I called Noé 2 days later, said, when are you getting it? He said, I'm going to get it this week. When he had a chance to go to Port-au-Prince, which is about a 2-hour haul for him, when he got there, he went to the diocese, he received a check from them with all the receipts to go with it, and then brought that back to Esch, where he is, put it in the bank, so he can withdraw the cash from that check, and then he distributes it with his treasurer to Lorette to support the food and support the teachers there. So it's about as transparent as I know we can get. And I've been doing work in developing countries for 25 years, and one of my big pet peeves is lack of transparency. So transparency is a must. So that's the current situation. So that's in contrast to all the money that's disappeared. That's why we work directly in partnership, so we know exactly where it goes. There can be a debate about how it's spent, but we know where it goes. And then as you see those structures built up, when I talk about falling away, so when I called him this week, he said, I'll be fine, I'll make it. I called him the morning the hurricane was just approaching Haiti, and Shirley, I couldn't reach him, so I called his wife, who's in Port-au-Prince, where their kids go to school, and she said, no, it's all fine, it's all good, just wind and rain. And away we'll be on the airplane ride on Wednesday morning. So I'm calling him on Tuesday. Then he calls me an hour later and says, oh yeah, I'll be on that flight tomorrow morning, no worries, it's all fine. And as day progressed, things got worse. And so he's up in Esh. And Esh is a community that's been isolated before by rain and water and by floods. And so that happened again by the end of the day, Wednesday night. And when I spoke to him that night, that's when he was out literally bringing people whose homes and whatnot and dwellings were washed away and brought them into the sanctuary to rest and to sleep for as long as they needed. But he can't get out to the other 12 communities that he serves. A, he doesn't have the right vehicle for it, and B, it's impossible to get there. So the next morning I spoke to him. He said, yep, we're still gathering people and giving them refuge. And he said, yeah, I'll get out there as soon as I can to those communities. But he hasn't been to Lorette, he's been to Lebec yet, and the other ones that we're serving. And then he said, you know, Mark, what I wanted to tell your people was, if the school had been built already, then I know that the people of Lorette would have had a safe place to go when the rains hit. Because it's highly elevated, it's way away from the riverbeds, and it's a strong structure that can stand hurricanes, and it's a place that they can be a base camp. You know, in the United States, we always send the kids to the schools, you know, the gymnasiums. The Red Cross sets up shop. Same thing. It's just a community base camp. When I was in Israel and Palestine and visiting, the Episcopal Church had schools, and those schools are become centers of community, safe places of food, of education, but also a place to gather when things aren't going right. Did I get that right? I'm looking at Jacques and Rula out there in the back who spent their whole lives doing that. So it's the same. That's the energy there. Other question, other comments.
What is that second photo?
So over here, I'll bring these out. So you saw this in the video. This one is the current habitat for the school, right? And then this is what St. Dunstan's Mass is finishing up right now. So it's a 6 classroom building with administrative office, and that allows for education to happen, but also there's sanitaries, proper sanitary in there, and the kitchen.
How long will it take to build the school that we want to build, and what in recent events is that going to push everything back?
No, so again on Wednesday and Thursday and Friday when I spoke to Noah, I said, what do you want? What do you need? You know, there are agencies that are good about, or not so good about getting the water there and the blankets there and the food there. There are agencies that are really good about going in and getting a bulldozer and reopening roads and whatnot. That's not us. There's some groups that get in there and say, hey, you know, 3 months from now, what do you need? We'll try to provide for you when the other system moves. He kept on saying, just build me a school. Just tell the people at St. Bartholomew's and St. Tim's hopefully will be helping us out as well. Just build me a school.
And how long will it?
So construction, it's all about money. So our budget is $65,000 for a completed school. If we raise $65,000 before Thanksgiving, and then the whole entire school will be built by April, before the rains come. If we raise $35,000, which we're pretty close to, then we'll build half the school by April. You with me? And then we'll raise the rest of it next summer and try to complete the school next year. One of my pet peeves when I travel and mission is I'll often see structures half-built. I'll see roads half-built. I'll see hospitals half-built. I'll see sanitary systems half-built. I don't want to be a half-built. I don't want to be part of half-built. And so that's the stress. There's a stressor there. So we've already raised $25,000. We wanted to raise that much money before we got to this weekend. Again, we thought Noah would be here, and we thought once you saw him, you'd write the biggest checks you ever thought you could write. You can't say no to this guy because he's so humble. One thing you don't know about Father Noah's story is he was on the streets as a child, and he he was in a community where the Episcopal Church came in and built a school, just like the one we're trying to build. And they started feeding him and his family, and allowed it so his parents weren't so desperate. And then allowed him to get an education that allowed him then to walk hours to get to a middle school, and that allowed him then to get placed in one of the elite private schools in Port-au-Prince, and then he graduated the top 10 of his class. That gave him a free scholarship to go to college in Barbados, where he got a 4-year college education. When he got a college education, he then got a free ride to go to seminary in Barbados, and by the Anglican Church, the Church of England. And then when he received his ordination, he had jobs lined up, and he continued his jobs lined up all over the world. He could have my job. I mean, he could have any. But he and his wife Shirley decided to raise their family in Haiti and give back the same way.
And that's really a rarity. I mean, he talked about his other friends that were in this school, and certainly in the top, and most of them are in the U.S. or Canada, and chose an easier life.
So one of the other images you have was this, which is where he is in Esch. The current bishop of Haiti was the priest that was St. Dunstan's in Northern California, who built this school. And they built 1 or 2 classrooms and a few more. And since Noé arrived, they started building more classrooms.
So you can see this is sort of the established, all the schools are in this lovely blue paint. And then here they expanded. So this is now a K through 12 school.
Yeah. Serving about 1,400 kids. And the uniforms are in there. And part of the reason why they do uniforms, I've learned, Kate and I really wanted to raise our kids in the public schools. And so Massachusetts, we did that. And then I went to Haiti, and I went to El Salvador, and I saw the school uniforms, and I learned what they're about. They break down class. You can't tell who's rich and who's poor. You barely can tell who's starving to death and who had a meal that morning before coming to school. And so school uniforms really helped that. And so you'll notice in all the photos of Haiti, when you see school children, except in Laurent, sorry, I can't pronounce it. My French is terrible. They have school uniforms. So that will come next. He needs the school first. We're feeding the kids, that's first priority. Second priority is a few teachers. Next priority is build the school. The third priority after that is continue to grow. He's already got another agency to come in and dig a deep well for him. So it's for Haitian standards, it's very clean water. And then part of the building the school, we're building proper sanitary facilities. And then a kitchen area. It's hard work. It's hard work, but it's good work.
And I think what's important is that we hope that this is just the start of a relationship with them. You know, we want to be able to, Father Noé really wants us to go in, Father Noé wants us to really go into a deeper relationship, and I think that's where we would like to do. So that could be anything from going down in the summer and offering Bible camp, group of choir members going down and singing. You'll have tough competition because we had a beautiful choir there. It could be anything from teaching new crafts that they could earn income from. So I see a lot of possibilities, but this is really stage one of the process.
So believe it or not, I like to go fast. Literally, Kate's correct, not just because she's my wife. But step 1 is pray about it. Step 2 is to go visit. Step 3 is to do something. Back to your earlier comment, right? I just got to do something, right? Because my heart's being torn, and I hope it works. And that's food and a little education. The next step is permanent, long-term investment. So they're not having to pick up the phone every time the rains fall and say, hey, St. Bartholomew's, we need more of this, more of that. And then the fourth step after that is the Holy Spirit. Where does God call us to go? And what does it mean to be in a deeper relationship? Hi. Are you learning how to stand in front of the video?
Well,
yeah.
She's doing her best to avoid it.
So when I went out to grab the sign-up sheet, I bumped into someone, and she said, well, why aren't we doing a GoFundMe? Why aren't we telling our friends about it? I said, I've been all over Facebook this week, because right now people are looking for an opportunity to help Haiti. And so please share all of this information, the work that we're going to be doing with your friends and family. It doesn't have to be just St. Bart's. It can be community that's supporting. So just think about that as you're talking to people about this forum today, and telling them to think about this as an opportunity to think long-term with Haiti.
And before I forget, Wednesday night at 7:30 in the church office, Kate and I think Jim will be there. We'll be hosting anyone who wants to learn about the possibility of going with us. Doesn't mean you'll go on the next mission trip, but but you want to learn what that really means. And if money's your issue for not showing up, we got people who are willing to write a check to make sure you can go. That's how important it is to people who can't go but who are willing to write that check. So we really want you to come learn about that and just ask questions and learn about what it means to be a missioner, to be a deacon, literally out there in Haiti, let alone anywhere else in this world. Other questions, other comments, other thoughts?
What's the time frame for that trip again?
So right now we're looking at, Kate and I have a tradition that we rarely spend Valentine's Day together. So right now the flight's scheduled, tentatively scheduled for February 14th.
Anyhow.
That's a joke until you see our schedules for the last 6-7 years, and you'll see it's actually really true. So mid-February, but there'll be another one later on, and then I imagine either our current confirmation class or our next one, part of their preparation for confirmation, going on mission. That we need youth. I found need to do domestic mission first, and then going over the border to Mexico to build homes, and then the third step for them, they'll build up to it, hopefully going to Haiti. And then Nathan is already praying about in the future, hopefully to bring some of our choir members to do music ministry down there. You get the idea. It starts to build on itself. Other questions?
The other reason
Oh,
we
sorry.
want to initially send people down for this February and then probably sometime in the summer is exactly the question many of you began with, is where are the funds going? And so we feel like we have a really good resource by doing this with Episcopal Church and doing this with Father Noe, but we also want to be down there and taking part in the building so that we see that to completion. And so that's the early people will be, maybe painting, maybe moving blocks, whatever, and need some physical skills to be able, or abilities to do that, but later on there's other.
That does a few things though. That holds them accountable.
Yep.
But gets us
It also
involved.
shows them that we're there to be a partner.
You
And
got
when
it.
you're there, you're present, it's real,
Yep.
and you become part of that community.
Father Noe talked about that when that the community always helps in the building, but that when we're down there doing the heavy lifting and taking part of it, just everyone shows up. They just have great hope for the future when they see.
So Tara Pritchard and her parents said, well, my girls want to do something. And we've been sitting on that for 6 weeks, and then this week I texted her and I said, Noe still needs a school. So she said, how about if the Girl Scout troop does a fundraiser? It might be only $100, it might be $200, but it's a way of being a witness and drawing and inviting them in. So back to earlier, I don't know if we made it clear. What we don't do is go get 50 Book of Common Prayers and put them in a box and ship them down. What we don't do is get 50 blankets and ship them down. It takes a long time to get there. What Noe needs is the school, but also buy local, because he wants to support the local economy, the local infrastructure, help the local people trying to build up their little businesses, whether it's selling pencils, selling shoes, selling uniforms, whatever it may be, and build up the local economy and to help out that way. This is complex, and yet it's really simple, as Bishop Curry reminded us. Any other thoughts? Questions before we wrap up our time now?
I think it's lovely. It's a lovely way to help. I know my son has been in Haiti for.
Now tell the room.
My son was in Haiti for a full year with Friends and Community Connection, the nonprofit outlet. He and a friend, after they graduated college, went down to help the academy that they support and the orphanage to work on sustainable farming practices.
That's right.
So enough that they could help them, help the community, feed themselves, and then also have enough to make money.
Yep.
And they are as well in dire straits right now too, and in our prayers. And also there are many Haitians in San Diego City right
That's
now
a
who
whole-
have come through Brazil, having lost jobs from the Olympics, and many of them are waiting in Tijuana. And Catholic Charities is housing about 200.
Yep.
So they are in need of help as well.
I never would imagine coming to serve in the Diocese of San Diego that there'd be a Haitian refugee issue, a sense of need to serve. And we are the members. There are about 20 members of our parish, plus the diocese is very involved in the refugee network here in San Diego, helping people who have been displaced or seeking refuge. But then when you all read I don't know if you saw the recent newspaper article, it's surged from like 200 Haitians trying to cross the border in Mexico to the United States for asylum to 3,000. And it's just a huge number. And so that's a
That's why
current
you're
issue.
stepping on the
That's sorry, thank you. So it's 10 o'clock. Kate can linger for a few questions, but I need to mosey back. Thank you for listening, and do something. Write a check, come to the meeting, tell your friends.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.